Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
And how have you been, Courtney?
Hi. I've been awake for 10 minutes. It's been a fun week. It's been a crazy week. I went to 3 shows. Tuesday night, I got to go to Birdland again, I love Birdland Jazz Club, and saw Tierney Sutton, who did some covers of some of our Alec Wilder and Bill Evans songs for work. So it was for work. And then Wednesday, I finally got to see The Play That Goes Wrong because it closes today.
Everything's closing today.
I know, it's wild. And then I went and saw The Who on Thursday. Madison Square.
That is exciting.
So I've been very busy and not sleeping again. But it's okay. I am off tomorrow all day, and I'm just gonna sleep.
I did not have a very exciting week. I was out of town all week for the funeral, my grandpa, which was nice, hard but nice. I did get my hair done.
Looks nice.
Monica did it.
She's such a gem.
I love her. I miss her on the podcast.
And she just sent her to the city so she can do my hair.
Yeah. But it was funny because while I was at her school, because she's still in school for hair, but they're like in practical, they have a salon at the school. And when I was at the salon for school, I ran into one of my oldest friends that I've known since like 5th grade. And he was like, shut up. And he gave me the biggest hug. And I was like, Monica, I asked you specifically if Rafi went to school with you. And she was like, didn't know what you're talking about. And he goes, well, that's because everyone that I met after undergrad only knows me as Raphael. And everyone who I met before undergrad knows me as Rafi. So I can figure out which friends are from which part of my life. I was like, that's amazing.
That's genius.
And then I also ran into my cousin's ex-girlfriend, who I'm still friends with, who I just like happened to, she was like, oh yeah, I didn't tell you Alex is here too. And I go, what the fuck? Apparently I need to go to beauty school because all my friends are there.
Yes, that seems to be the case.
Just kidding. I could never. But yeah, I mean, getting my hair done. I was supposed to have a really awkward hangout tonight. That is not going to happen, but it's not going to happen because the podcast is taking over my life today, which is fine. One of my ex-boyfriends from when I was like 14, 15 texted me on Friday while I was getting my hair done with Monica and asked me if I wanted to go to an Asian grocery store with him today.
Yes.
And I was like, when your ex asks you to go grocery shopping, what do you say to that? My brother was like, you absolutely say yes.
I like it.
Okay. So that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have no money to go grocery shopping and I'm not interested in him in that way at all. So I'm absolutely going to go because that makes sense.
I mean, I think so. I think that's the only correct response.
Right. Because, I love chaos. I love chaos.
Speaking of chaos, little behind the scenes. Today that this comes out is today that we're recording.
Right.
You will get this momentarily.
In a few hours, you will be able to see this.
Yeah, we are doing our best, but we are very last minute this week. But we still wanted to get it out today, so we are here to get it out today.
Right. Yeah, we were supposed to record Saturday morning so that I could edit Saturday night, but because my life and the funeral and just like falling apart, I didn't watch Stargate until I was at work on Saturday, and I was like, I texted Courtney Saturday morning, I'm gonna be full honest with you, I got nothing to record right now.
And I
Nothing.
slept like 5 hours Friday, so I was like, okay, sounds good. And
Oh, and the shift that I worked yesterday, it was a dance competition, like the kind that you see on Dance Moms, like all day, lots of schools, craziness, dance competition. And I work at a theater. And granted, a lot of people in the theater industry are either women or homosexual. Tech guys are not. No. I mean, and obviously not everyone is, but like for the most part, your tech guys are electricians who figured out that this was the easiest long-term gig. Like, let's be real. So my head of electrics at my theater comes into my green room and he just goes, Mary Kate, I need your help. I said, what's wrong, Josh? He goes, there is a fully naked 8-year-old in the hallway on the way to my office, and I don't really know what I'm supposed to do about that. So I had to remind the parents that you can't just strip your children naked in the middle of the hallway because men still work in the building and aren't going to disappear because you have a quick change. So that was what I was dealing with while trying to take notes on this episode.
why is that their go-to, the hallway?
Right. I don't know. I don't know.
Excuse me. She's found a piece of paper that she wants to tear up, and I don't know why.
Well, you know, we all handle our stress differently, I guess. But while handling our stress, we had this gem reprieve. That was.
Yes, I was really wondering how you were gonna transition.
I was wondering too. It was one of those times where the sentence was started before it was thought out in my
You did
head.
a lot better than I expected. So
We watched Stargate SG1, season 1, episode 11. It's a lot of ones.
a lot of ones.
It was only rated 7.3 stars, which is on the lower end for the season. And I definitely thought it was not as good as the previous episode, but I would not have dropped it that much. I think it was like a solid 7.6, 7.7.
I would have said probably 7.6. I think it was because of where it fell in order of the season is the only reason it was ranked lower, because the last episode was so good and the first one we started getting really momentum, I guess.
Yeah.
And this one kind of stepped back from that.
See, but I felt like this one had momentum too, just on an opposite storyline.
It did, but it was like it took you into a different section.
Yeah.
Instead of going forward where we worked through those 2 episodes back to back, that was like, oh, this next one actually kind of follows where we left. It keeps
Right.
going.
It wasn't building the same.
And so, right. So this went back to building the world, and
which again might be why the broadcast order and the actual episode order are so different for season 1. Once we finish season 1, I'm going to have to go back and actually like figure out what the DVD order is to figure out why it's so different. But I think that momentum may have a big reason why they changed episodes for that.
Yeah, I feel like it would have to.
It did air on October 10th, 1997. The number 1 song was 4 Seasons of Loneliness by Boyz II Men, which I have absolutely never heard of.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
I mean, I've heard of Boyz II Men, but
right. Yeah.
not this one.
Glad you heard of Boyz II Men.
Could you imagine?
Could you though?
The number 1 movie was also something that like I had never heard of, except for that tangentially I must have known it existed, because it was called Kiss the Girls.
Mm-hmm.
And it is based on a James Patterson novel. It was directed by Gary Fleder, and it starred Morgan Freeman and I want to say Ashley Judd.
I think that's right. I haven't seen it, but I
But
knew it existed.
the reason why I must have known it existed is because it's the first movie in a series, and Along Came a Spider is the sequel, and I've definitely heard of Along Came a Spider. So I don't know how I managed to know Along Came a Spider without knowing that there was a first movie.
I think that's possible. I think a lot of people know that. This could be just me thinking this. But like I know that happened with the book too. I mean, the books came out, people knew Kiss the Girl or Kiss the Girls, but Along Came a Spider was like the hit. And so
Yeah.
everyone knew about that. And the way that James Patterson writes his books is a lot of them are in a series, but you don't necessarily have to read them in an order. And so I think Along Came a Spider got really big. And so when they did Kiss the Girls, I would guess that's why everyone knew about Along Came a Spider, the movie.
Yeah.
But I definitely knew both existed, and I haven't seen either or read either. But
No, I'm not a big James Patterson person. Like, I think that his stuff is interesting and it's definitely a genre, but it's never been something that I particularly was drawn to. Probably because it's not as fantasy based as most of the shit I read.
Right.
But
I've read a few of them, and they're they're good, but it's also not like everything I'm like.
The only event that happened that day was once again a plane crash. I don't know what it is with Stargate episodes and plane crashes, but it's a thing.
It's like ice cream and murders theory.
Yeah. This one happened in, I don't remember where, but 74 people died. I want to say it was somewhere in South America. Yes, it was because it was in Paraguay because my ex is from there. I had a connection in my brain. Yes. So, not a good thing. But one day I will do a Stargate episode where the event of the day was good. Like one day.
Or like neutral at least.
Yeah, at least like neutral. At least like not more than 50 people dead. Because so far it's always been more than 50 people dead. Yeah. It was directed by Mario Azzopardi. This is the third episode he's directed this season. And the story was written by Mark Sarancini. That's how I would assume you say that last name. Don't know if that's true. This is the only episode that he writes, but he wrote a lot of 90s animation. Like the Tasmania, Aladdin, Timon and Pumbaa, like
all the good stuff.
All the good, like the good, weird, obscure 90s animation. He actually was nominated for 2 daytime Emmys for animation, for outstanding achievement in animation because of Tasmania.
I was obsessed with Timon and Pumbaa as a child. Those cartoons were my favorite.
Right? The Timon and Pumbaa cartoons, A+.
Yes.
I also, his last TV credit was in like 2005. So I tried to like do some digging on him as a person, and he potentially works as an assistant professor at Emerson teaching screenwriting. That page didn't seem to have been updated since 2014.
Gosh.
But enough TV to teach TV, I guess.
Hush.
The teleplay was written by Jeff King, who is a returning writer for us, but somehow in the first time I wrote about him, I missed, because I was doing it on my phone, not my computer, my notes, that he was also nominated for 3 daytime Emmys for my favorite underrated show ever in the 90s. He was nominated for 3 writing Emmys for the show Strange Days at Lake Halsey High.
Such a good show.
Thank you. I was like, I hope Courtney knows that that show exists.
It was a weird show.
It was so weird.
Weird. That's what's wrong with us, I think, that show.
I think that does explain Timon and Pumbaa and Strange Days at Lake Halsey High in our childhood. Probably.
Very similar shows. Very similar.
No, not similar. Hit the right crazy bone.
Right.
The guest star for this episode, who, spoiler alert, will be back. Tony Amendola played Master Bratak. He's most well known for playing Father Perez in Annabelle.
Like the horror movie Annabelle?
Yeah.
Okay, I have not seen that.
Um, yeah, he plays a lot of priests in a lot of weird things, like including a 1980s Columbo episode. He played a priest. I know him very, very well for something else, which would be why you know him as well, because he played Marco, aka Geppetto, on Once Upon a Time. Yes.
Oh, I did recognize him and I did not know why.
He also has done a lot of voice work, which weirdly includes narrating the game Hearthstone, which is one of my favorite games that I play. It is basically a card game version of World of Warcraft. Like you play it like a Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh card, but it's using all of the stats and like characters from World of Warcraft. And he's the narrator for that game.
Interesting. I've never played that, but it feels like I'd like it.
My brother looked at my phone the other day when we were in Massachusetts and he goes, "You still play Hearthstone?" I go, "Yeah.
There's an app?
Yeah. It's an app. Yep. So yeah, Tony Amendola, what a gem.
What a gem.
He's still also acting. I forgot what the newest thing he's doing is because it's something I've never heard of, but he's doing his thing. The blurb for this episode says, Teal'c returns to Chulak in an attempt to stop his son Ryak from becoming a slave to the Goa'uld.
Mm-hmm.
Which, spoiler alert, that's the whole episode.
Right. Which is why I do not read what the episode's about before I watch it.
Which is fair. I only do for my notes, but also because I've seen the show before.
Right. You also know what's going to happen. So.
Right. So we start with, we open with this weird ritual ceremony where a small boy is getting a Goa'uld implanted into his stomach, and Teal'c is like wandering around the ceremony, but Teal'c's clearly not there because no one else notices that he's there, which is obviously a dream.
Yeah.
And then Teal'c wakes up from his dream screaming. Well, first he wakes up from his dream, and then he has another dream about his implanting ceremony. And then it's just a whole weird mess of Teal'c having a nervous breakdown. And we realized that the dream was not a normal dream. It was an anesthesia dream, which explains a lot. Yes. But it's because they put him under anesthesia to do some surgery to remove the Goa'uld. But as soon as they did that, he started rapidly dying. So they had to put it back in.
Which felt very sudden because, like, I felt like we would have been, like, leading up to it a bit. Like, okay, we're about to put him under. But it was just like, all right, he's been under and now he's not dead because we stopped.
Yeah, so one of the trivia about this episode is that this weirdly happens right now, and then they're not going to talk about it for quite some time. And then later in the series, we will go back to investigating drugs to get rid of the Goa'uld. Like, again, the continuity of the first season is a hot mess.
It is. The
actual, like, story writing and the ideas that they're going through and the, like, sci-fi-ness of it, fantastic. Excellent. Continuity, not their strong point at this point.
No.
So when Teal'c was waking up from his dream, he was screaming the word Ryak, and the team was like, "Hey, what does that mean?" And he was like, "It means nothing," which is a lie. Right. And it's obvious in that moment that it's a lie, even if you hadn't read the blurb.
Right.
So then they're in a briefing with Captain Hammond or Colonel Hammond, and they're discussing the fact that through this experimental surgery thing, they figured out that Teal'c has literally no immune system. Mm-hmm. The Goa'uld is his entire immune system, so they'd have to study the Goa'uld larvae to replicate an immune system to basically, like, give his body a fake immune system in order to get rid of that, which they can't really do without taking it out. So Teal'c is just like, why don't we just go back to Chulak and steal some Goa'uld larvae?
Yeah, why not? Why not?
And General Hammond is like, abso-fucking-lutely not. So Teal'c just goes, okay, then I won't talk about it again. And gets up from the table.
Very quick to just give in, throw in the towel.
And so the team is like, well, that's fucking weird. How can we, what do we do? What do we do? So Jack goes to check on Teal'c, and Teal'c is like, I never told you this before because I didn't want, basically, like, he was like, I was trained as a soldier that a family is a weakness, and that if your enemy has the family, it can be used as a weapon against you. And since the Goa'uld are now our enemy, like, I couldn't tell you, but fun fact, I am married and have a child.
Right.
And Jack was like, nobody trusted you except for me, and then you lied to me, and now how am I supposed to trust you?
Yeah, but like, like we're too far in now. Like,
well, of course they know that Teal'c's actually on their side, but like from Jack's point of view, he's like, you, especially because Jack of all people, why would you lie about having a kid to Jack? Especially after that whole weird Lazarus bullshit.
Right. Absolutely fair. I would have thought he would have told him, but I mean, oh my gosh, could you not? But I mean, I also get it. Like, what if he would have told him about his family in the beginning? Like, would they have tried to save them and then got stuck in Chulak, or would more people have died? Would it have?
I don't know. But I mean, it's hard because obviously their whole mission is kind of dependent, even though we haven't seen it in 8 episodes, it's kind of dependent on Share. So obviously, family being a part of this is not something that they're gonna just say, oh, well, fuck your family.
Right. No, I just feel like it would have. Hey, oh my gosh, come here. I feel like it would have made them make different choices at the beginning, and they were already so close to not making it that if they would have changed paths, that they would have ended up.
No, I'm talking about when they got back to Earth, when General Hammond was like, do you have any ties left to that planet? Would it hurt you if something were to destroy that planet? And Teal'c said no.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
that's what I'm not talking about on Chulak. Obviously, on Chulak, they didn't have time for that conversation.
Right.
But so Teal'c explains to Jack that there's a ceremony called a primta, and that's when you get your implantation, and it's like the becoming a man for a Jaffa thing, and it's a big deal. And he also talks about the fact that he was already doubting the Goa'uld before he rebelled with Jack, and that there is other people who feel the same way, specifically his master, who was like his teacher, Bratak, who has always believed that the Goa'uld are false gods.
Right, which was very interesting to find out, because up until now, it seemed like he was just in it until he wasn't suddenly.
Right. I mean, there must have obviously all been people who betrayed before, because they have a word. They have a word and a symbol for it and everything. But like, to know that the betrayal wasn't a sudden change of heart, it was just seeing that the things that Bratak told him were true were actually true.
Right, and having me out and taking it, basically.
Yeah. So then the rest of the team is trying to convince Hammond that the mission is not only to gain them larvae, but it's also going to be a tactical advantage, because if there are these people with these beliefs, they can undermine the Goa'uld and have like a secret force in their fighting force. It's really funny because General Hammond is like, how many of them are there? And Jack's like, we know for sure about one guy.
just the one.
Just the one. But like, if there's one, there's probably more than one.
Yeah, there's gotta be.
And Hammond's like, no. And he's like, Jack, I need to talk to you alone. He sees through their bullshit. He's like, clearly something else is going on. And if you're not going to tell me, then I'm just going to absolutely ban the mission.
Right.
So Jack, because Jack's not a fucking idiot, even though he sometimes acts like one,
Right.
he's like, here's the thing. Teal'c has a family, and his son is about to be implanted with goa'uld larvae. And as Hammond is trying to figure out how to process this information, Teal'c takes it upon himself to not wait for anybody else and just go and pop the gate open on his own.
Ready. He just jumps right in.
And Hammond is like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? And he's like, I'm gonna go. And he's like, if you go by yourself to this planet, you will be murdered. And then no one will be saved. And so Teal'c's basically like, okay, but like, I don't care. Then I'll die for honor for my family. And he's like, no. That's why I'm going to send you with people so you don't go alone and die. Teal'c's like, oh, okay.
And again, I'm becoming a broken record, but we're going to save someone who isn't Share and Skara. Why? We're even going back to, is it Chulak? Is that how you?
Yeah.
We're going back to Chulak, and we're not like discussing
whether Shari is still there.
Right.
I was watching this episode, I was like, Courtney is gonna hate this episode because of the Shari stuff, but also this episode featured incredibly heavily nothing but nasty, naked, out-of-body goa'uld for the whole episode.
It did.
Like,
oh my goodness.
Livid.
I had to go take a nap after I watched it.
The episode starts with just like a squirmy little goa'uld in somebody's hands, and I was like, ooh.
Not great. They look like shrimp out of a shell. They have shrimp heads. I do not care for it. I do not care for it at all. And it kept happening. You're right. It was a whole episode.
So Hammond authorized the mission, and they put on these Jaffa disguises to go through, which I was like impressed by, because usually they just like walk full military fatigue into places that may or may not be trying to kill them. And I was like, oh, disguises, nice touch. Good.
No, I was like, what are they wearing? I was like, what is happening?
Yeah. So they get there, and the one priest at the gate is not at all convinced. Not even a little bit. But Teal'c beats the shit out of him and says, we're going.
Right.
So, okay, cool.
Not really a lot of options there.
No. So then they're trying to figure out where to go, and Teal'c takes them to his former house, which is destroyed and caught on fire, and there's a giant symbol painted on the wall saying that was the house of a traitor. And Teal'c is losing his mind, and everybody's like, well, you don't know that your family was in there when it happened, like they might not be dead. And
I for sure thought they were. I was ready for the worst.
I didn't, because I didn't think Teal'c would be having those dreams about his son if his son wasn't still around.
That makes sense.
But they get ambushed at the house, and turns out the ambush is just Bratak, who is Teal'c's friend and mentor. Right. And so he's like, these are the people you abandoned us for? Like, these aren't warriors. So Bratak starts a fight with Jack just to see if he'll pass the test, and he does. Mm-hmm. And it's beautiful.
He's a real warrior.
Yeah. Good thing he didn't start the fight with Daniel, because Daniel.
Oh gosh, I know. That would have not gone well. Daniel would have just given up immediately.
And then Jack is like, okay, you, Daniel, and Sam, you guys are gonna watch the gate. And Daniel's like, what happened to us being warriors? And Jack's like, which I have a lot of feelings about Daniel and Sam in this episode and how fucking stupid they are.
Right? I also do. As we move forward, I have thoughts as well.
So there are these camps outside the city where people who are basically refugees from the goa'uld city are living. And so then Bratak isn't sure exactly where Riak is, but he decides to take them, help them go find this little village.
Also, before they go find this village, we learned that Bratak, was that his name? I may or may not ever remember anybody's name, is 133 years old.
Yes.
That raises a lot of questions for me. How old is Tilk?
I believe Teal'c is probably only about the age he actually is, like 40s maybe.
Okay.
Obviously
he could live to be 133.
he could live forever, but
old.
Yeah. But based on when he was trained and how long he has served Apophis and everything, I think he's probably only, especially if you get implanted when you're like 10 or 11 and then he served he's probably only 40s or 50s.
That makes sense.
So when Jack sends Daniel and Sam back to guard the gate, he's like, if we're not back in 24 hours, we're not coming back. So just leave. Then we have Bratok and Teal'c and Jack. Also, I'm not sure if it's Bratok or Braytok because they said it, different characters said it both ways. I know how it's spelled. I don't know. It's but so Bratok is asking about like Earth and all the people and how they have like who they worship and who they serve, and Jack's trying to explain like God, but like not God, and like all of this stuff. And this was my favorite line of the whole episode. He was like, so then who do you serve? And he was like, I serve General Hammond. And he's not a god. He's just a man, a very good, very bald man from Texas.
Also my favorite line. It's like, that's so accurate.
It's like a very good, very bald man from Texas. Yes. And if that doesn't give you everything you need to know about General Hammond, I don't know.
Absolutely.
So then Sam and Daniel are trying to go head back to the gate, and they run directly into this weird procession for the Goa'uld, and they think, fuck it, let's follow it.
And this is where I thought they were going to see Sha're. And
that would have been so good. It didn't happen.
Should have added me to the writers team in 1997.
I'm sure 5-year-old you would have been really, really good.
Look, 5-year-old me had some thoughts. I could have come up with something.
So when Teal'c and Bratok arrive at the camp in like their full Jaffa gear, all of the women immediately start screaming and running away. And but Teal'c sees the Premta tent and just fucking books it.
Yeah.
He rushes in to save Riak, and there's this whole battle between him and the priest who's like, I know who you are, you're a traitor. And then Draok joins in the fight, but she's like attacking Teal'c, and it's a hot mess, and everybody is fighting. And then eventually the priest falls on his own sword, and the glass jar with the Goa'uld in it shatters and breaks and kills the Goa'uld.
I was like, now you can't even take it back with you to Stargate. Right. Excellent.
And then we find out that Draok is definitely not happy to see her husband. She is like, you betrayed us. You chose your principles over your family, and now this is the squalor we live in thanks to you. And he's like, so you don't even care about them hurting our son. You just want to get out of the camp. Good. And I was like, this is dysfunctional at best.
At best, yes.
Then we go back to Daniel and Sam, who have followed this weird procession to a like temple where there's like a giant tub full of Goa'uld larvae, and they're like feeding it some weird water. It was strange.
I did not care for it.
No. Then we go back to the A storyline.
Oh, wait. So that brought up some more questions for me.
Yeah.
Is that where they breed Goa'uld in that one little place? Is that how they breed?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, again, how do they breed?
I don't know. That's my question.
Ew. The A storyline takes us back to the fact that Riak is very, very sick, And the reason his mom pushed so hard to have this happen and for him to get a Goa'uld is because he needs an immune system and he's actually dying. So Jack is like, oh man, I know scarlet fever when I see it. I will take him back to Earth and we can maybe cure him. The problem is he did not have a scarlet fever rash, and also there are no antibiotics for scarlet fever on Earth.
Yeah.
So that was just a statement.
Yep. I think he was just trying. He was like, maybe we'll figure it out once we get there.
Right. I don't know. I don't know if that was a plot hole or just Jack being optimistic. But
I went with optimism. I wasn't sure. I went with optimism. But I was like, so many diseases that shouldn't be here anymore, because now we have monkeypox in the world, and we have Legionnaire's disease in New York again. And I'm just like, what? Why? Next thing I know, we're gonna have scarlet fever back. So I was not optimistic as Jack, but I chose optimism for him because.
Okay, I just chose poor writing.
Yeah, fair.
So then Sam and Daniel are like, you know what? Why don't we? There's nobody here. Nobody's around. There's no guards. Let's just take this larva and take it back to Earth. Like, that's what we're here for. So then they do. And then Daniel's like, look at all those fools, just defenseless, ready to be dead. And Sam's like, probably don't do that because that would make you a murderer. And he's like, you're right. And then does it anyway.
If you could have seen my face when this happened, I was like, what is going on? I was like, you've now ruined any chance you have. You have this one specimen. What if something happens?
Yeah.
Well, there it does. I was like, what if something happens? And now you have nothing. You can't learn how they work. You can't help Tilt. You got no chance with Sharae because you destroyed everything. You're not trying that anyways. But I was just
angry.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I also don't blame him because I get like where he's coming from.
Right. So then not a lot happens in the story. I feel like that's probably why it's rated so long or so short. Like, because as I'm going through this, I realize that like we're on the final scene of the episode already.
Yep, we've made it. Yep.
Kind of. So Daniel, so they're an idiot. Teal'c is carrying Ryak, and he's like, this is not going to work. He's not going to last. He's not going to make it to the gate. He's going to die. So there's only one way to save him. And this was awful, watching him cry and ask his son for forgiveness as he gave him the Goa'uld. I
know. It was so gross.
And as he's doing that, we get another cut to the fucking idiots in chief, Sam and Daniel, who are just like eating a granola bar and strolling through the woods like they're not on a planet where everyone wants to fucking kill them. And then, surprise, they get attacked.
Because what else new?
So they blow up all the Jaffa that attack them, which, fair.
Right.
But then they just, leave all the bodies there. Cool. Then they meet up with the rest of the team, and Jack's like, here's the thing. We got a little bit of a complication. We had to put the Goa'uld in Ryak because he's dying, so now Teal'c doesn't have his Goa'uld, and so he's also dying. And they were like, oh, we have one.
Yeah.
And Bratak's like, yeah, that Goa'uld is way too young for implantation, but maybe it'll work.
Yeah.
So then they do it. And it works. It's disgusting, but it works.
Yeah.
And then because they just left all these dead Jaffa bodies around, they get caught again. And honestly, I'm obsessed with the horn that the Jaffa has, though. His horn that he blew to tell everybody it was time to go. Stunning. So they blow the horn, and everyone's on alert. And they start attacking. So they're like, well, shit, we gotta go. We gotta run. And Teal'c makes a decision that I don't fully understand.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells Drayak to tell everyone that it was him alone killing the priest and that she tried to fight him off, which is technically true. And leaves Ryak and Drayak there and promises to like come back and free his people later, which I don't get.
I'm guessing that it's because with Rayak or Ray, what's his son's name? Ryak being so newly implanted with the gold, he had to be on Trulok for it to implant correctly and make sure it had all the healing powers and everything happening. And they weren't ready to leave yet. And the only way to do that was to say, like, tell them I'm a traitor, basically, and that you protected us to be saved. And they would get back into Apophysis' good graces and they wouldn't be stuck in this, like.
Yeah, I just don't know why they wouldn't just take it to Earth and like have him work. Because I don't know. It seemed like a dumb decision to me.
Why didn't they take Sharae to Earth eight episodes ago?
Well, no, because that was in her brain. So it was different. The Jaffa implantation and the brain implantation are very different in terms of their ability to think.
But they still could take her and like throw her in a jail cell or something until they figured out what was going on. I'm just distraught that we don't.
You saw how well that worked with Kowalski, though.
Oh, that's true.
Then he tells Bratok to take care of his family, which obviously Bratok would do because Bratok is the real MVP. Mm-hmm. And Bratok opens a can of fucking whoop ass on all of the guards of the gate so that the rest of the team can go through. And he is going to, and they're like, what are you going to do now? Like, you're going to be labeled a traitor too. And he was like, I will cross that bridge when I get to it.
Oh, I loved that.
And so he's going to stay and train Ryak and continue to try to undermine the Goa'uld from within.
Mm-hmm. He's a secret spy on the inside.
Now, I will say, because I know that Bratok is a recurring character and that we will address this story again, I like this story as a setup to that. But because I know Stargate and the chances are it's not going to happen in the next 2 episodes, I get why this episode was rated as low as it was.
Right. I have some final thoughts on this one.
Please share final thoughts.
So I get that they gave us insight into Tilk's life. Mm-hmm. Very important to know about his wife and son. It was a good storyline. It was a good backstory as to why things happened the way they did. Fine. However, even though it's adding another layer to the story, we haven't tied up any layers we've already started. We just keep starting layers and then jumping around instead of, I mean, it's continuity. It's what we've been talking about. It just keeps jumping around, opening up so many doors. And it's another thing where you were like, they had to know they were going to have 10 seasons because they wrote so many storylines at one time.
Yeah.
And like in season 7, I probably won't care that this started out this way. I'll probably be like, you know, I remember when that happened. It's fine. But like season 1, when there's no storyline yet,
mm-hmm.
like.
It's interesting because I was just on a Reddit post on the Stargate Reddit that was talking about how much better the first 3 seasons of the show are than later.
Really?
And I find that hard to believe because I only really watched the show later. Mm-hmm. And I am having such a hard time with the way that they're setting up this season. Like, I get world building is necessary, especially in this kind of world, right. But you're right. They have not closed anything. And it's different. It's different when you have kind of like a monster of the week kind of thing, or like right. in Doctor Who, where there's this lore that's built into, but then each thing is an adventure by itself and you don't need the lore to have the adventure. This is building so much world without answering any questions.
Right. And like the only thing, it was like they keep opening up all these storylines and not closing them. But they did the same thing with Jack's son, but they opened it and immediately closed it. Like, and it's like, I think we're not gonna talk about that again. And so I was like,
Right, but I think with Jackson it was easier because that's already over. Whereas Teal'c's family and the relationships he has on Chulak kind of have to not be over
Well, no.
if we're ever gonna actually
Yeah.
address the Goa'uld stuff.
Right. No, I definitely agree. But it's just like, because of having all these open storylines, it's like they closed one and they did it pretty succinctly. Everything made sense. You kind of followed through and then it was over. And then we can move on to the next storyline. And instead of doing more of that or opening and closing some.
I had a thought midway through the episode that this would be the perfect episode to have the first time that they don't go back into the gate at the end of the episode. Like if they had actually ended it in the middle of this conflict and still dealing with it and then had a 2-part arc where they're still on Chulak, it would have been the perfect time to have the first time where the gate doesn't open and close the story.
Right. I agree.
And it didn't do that.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I think it's just a structure issue right now. I think they're still figuring things out at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But,
and it's hard for us because like on our horror side, we've already finished an entire season of Bates because it's more modern and it's written in that super short, like bingeable season kind of time frame. Whereas this format, the 90s and the like 45 episode TV series where people weren't invested as much and they watched 1 week here and 1 week there and you had the freedom to have things not fully connect, is much more difficult for our like millennial brains to like process.
But even so, I mean, we're watching it week to week just like people would have watched it. And like if you're watching it with continuity, because I mean, I'm sure there were plenty of people that when it came out watched, week to week, and it still could have had better continuity even.
It could have, but I think it's really hard for us to ever place ourselves in the way TV was in the 90s. Right. We just don't have that mental capacity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's fair.
Because I mean, like there are so many shows from the 90s and 2000s that I could say that people would be like, oh, did you watch that show? And I would say yes, but I realized I watched maybe 2 episodes in this season and 2 because you just didn't watch TV that way. And now it's like if you don't watch all of it in the first 3 hours that's available online, it's spoiled for you.
Unless you're me and avoid every spoiler that's ever happened.
Oh yeah, no, I did not watch Obi-Wan because my dad is out of town and I was on the phone with my mom yesterday and she goes, oh, you might want to watch that. He definitely didn't wait for you.
How dare he? I also haven't watched it though, so don't tell me what happens.
Well, I didn't watch it yet because this was last night and I was like, rude.
Ugh. You're gonna have to like figure out how to like turn off TV on every device he has until he's just at home with you, but like only in certain times when you're there.
Like, yeah, he pays for it, so I can't.
Well, that's fine.
Actually, no, Obi-Wan's on Disney, so my brother pays for it. So no.
Ooh, absolutely, cut it off.
Rude. So, who do you want to punch this episode?
The Goa'uld, all of them, and their ugly shrimp faces.
That's fair. I would like to punch Daniel.
That's fair.
Yeah. And who's your MVP?
Bratok.
Yeah, he's pretty great. Just to not pick the same one as you, I think I will pick Jack because he is the only one who really understands what the fuck is going on with everyone and their different strengths and weaknesses.
He would have been my second choice for sure.
Yeah. This is a short episode, guys.
Oh, it is. We were trying to rush, but we actually didn't really rush that much. We didn't have as much to say.
Yeah, no, I'm also trying to rush because my computer battery is really low, but I was like, it's not that low. I don't need to bring my charger over here, but I definitely should have. Right. And now that it's almost time to end the episode, I'm not going to pause to go get the charger.
Right, fair.
So
this one's
we're doing great. Doing fantastic today. So if you are also having a fantastic week and just want to share it with someone who will understand your pain, you can email us at deafeningaliens@gmail.com or contact us on any of the social medias at deafeningaliens. You can also follow me to see my shit show of a life at EMKAY_superstar.
And you can follow me and my lack of posting at CECloud13.
And we will talk to you on Thursday for a Thriller Thursday with our very, very special movie episode.
It's going to be a good one. It may be a little long, so
it makes up for the fact that this one's like 40 minutes.
Just split the difference. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. All right.
So don't forget, watch Woman in Black. It's on Pluto TV for free with ads or on Amazon for $3.99 to rent.
Correct. And the ads are not as poorly placed as I would have imagined they did. They did a pretty good job of putting them at places where it wasn't going to completely kill the story for the ads to be there, because I watched it on Pluto. So
good to know. Good to know.
Yes. All right. So we will see you guys on Thursday. Bye.